Welcome back to another episode of the Terptalk podcast. The Terps are back on the basketball court, and they start off the season with a win in Baltimore. Jordan gives us the rundown from CFG Bank Arena. Maryland heads to Piscataway with Judgment Day, the whole entire season on the line in their game against Rutgers. And hey, the Terps are number one in the country on the pitch. Let's have a podcast. This podcast is brought to you by VinerX. Your business deserves technology that works as hard as you do. VinerX brings your business enterprise technology that is human first. VinerX aligns technology with your goals, giving you productivity, reliability, and the freedom to scale. From managed IT and communications to business intelligence and cybersecurity, VinerX brings the tools that let you thrive. With VinerX, IT isn't a cost center, it's an investment in your future. Learn more at VinerX.com. Jordan back here on the podcast. First doubleheader pod of the season. We got basketball, we got football. Let's start it off. You were out there at CFG Bank Arena on Monday night. What did you see from the Terps in their win over Coppin?
I saw a lot of good things and some concerning things, Mason. Before we talk about that, we do have to shout out our listeners who made the last podcast our most viewed episode since our relaunch, Mason, and that's just awesome to see for us.
Yeah, it is, and, was not under the best circumstances, but still happy that we all have this podcast together and can keep, wallowing away in Maryland football land. But now, hopefully the positive part begins.
You would hope so.
It's been kind of a downfall, even though the Terps are number one right now on the pitch. That's about it as far as good things so far. But with men's and women's basketball back on the court, hopefully we will pick up some dubs here and get some positive viewership going.
That would be nice. It's worth remembering, outside of the Jordan McNair unfortunate tragedy, the most viewed podcast we had before this, Mason, was the Texas game, which was a great moment of triumph for this program. And it has not been the case for the last few successful episodes we've had. But real quick, the women's basketball team just trounced Loyola 80-26 to open their season. We're not going to dive too far into that. I mean, you can't glean anything from these early women's basketball games when you don't play anybody of note.
Yeah, the talent level in both men's and women's basketball at the mid-major to just kind of the nothingness that is a lot of these teams is really just been damaged by the portal. The good players are jumping up to the next level, and there's not a huge talent pool when you have 300 and, I don't know, Jordan, you probably know the number.
360 something. Yeah, but one of the true tragedies, in my opinion, of the portal is the decline in mid-major basketball, which, I mean, we all remember mid-major basketball had some great teams before the portal era. I mean, and there are some good ones still now, but they're very few and far between, and that's a real shame. But that's a topic for another day. I was out in Baltimore on, what day was that, Monday, out there with Bruce, who was just ecstatic to have a game that he was within 20 minutes from. He told me several times. But yeah, it was good to be out there. I'm sorry if you're a Baltimore native, CFG Bank Arena just is not nice. It's not. I appreciate Baltimore putting money into it to make it more close to better, but it's not a good experience to watch a game there, Mason. It's really not.
No, it hasn't been in the past, and it probably was not on Monday.
But there was a lot of Maryland fans out there, and I appreciate that. Not as many as we've seen in years past, but as a reminder, Bruce, and a reminder our viewers, the last time Maryland played a game there, they were number 6. So yeah, there are more people out there.
Well, the game wasn't at 6 on a Monday against Coppin State.
That also did not help. Although Coppin did have a few fans out there. So did Taos and Loyola. That was also good to see. Shout out Pat Scarry at Taos, who had a great year last year. But yeah, the Terps defeated Coppin State 83-61. Again, hard to glean much from these early games, but we did learn some things. The highlight of the game for the Terps was probably the free throw shooting, 23 for 25 from the line, including a perfect 9 of 9 from Pharrell Payne. And Darius Adams, again, really rough night from the field. We might have to get used to that until the other guards start creating more. Goes 3 of 9 from the field, 0 of 5 from deep, but 10 of 12 from the line, and he was getting to the line a lot. And he took a beating, Mason. They were not calling a lot of fouls out there. Darius Adams took a nasty foul at one point. Pharrell Payne, who's clearly Maryland's best player so far, also took some hits. But overall, they played well enough. I will say, Bless you.
Oh,
A big concern for both the Terps, given their own history of big men, and Buzz Williams with the way he plays, or his teams play, is the lack of a center. Con Metcalf got in there for a few minutes, but it's pretty clear early on he's not going to be a great offensive threat. Pharrell Payne is only 6'8" and seems like more of a scoring big than a defender. Not a great rebounder, at least thus far this season. Only getting, 6 rebounds per game, on Monday, which was tied for the team high. But it just didn't feel like we had impact in the inside that we wanted. The Terps only beating Coppin State in the boards 34-29. Coppin State's playing LaSalle right now, and LaSalle is beating them by 30 points in the first half. So that just goes to show that I wasn't super encouraged by what we saw out there. But I'm not going to be a downer. It's the first game of the year. Like I said, Pharrell Payne played well. Elijah Saunders, who I guess you're a power forward if you're playing Payne at the 5, although he's definitely more of a wing than a forward, played well, 16 points for him. But Mason, I do have to shout out Andre Mills, the redshirt freshman guard who started in place of Miles Rice, who was hurt, but should be back on Friday is what they're saying. Played well, 14 points. He made some very athletic plays in the first half, though kind of disappeared in the second. Mason, again, I don't want to be too much of a downer, but I just was not super enthused by what I saw out there. The team did not seem to really have it together, if we're being honest. And Buzz Williams did say that in his media day remarks back, a couple weeks ago, that he didn't feel the team had really clicked yet. He only had what he called 5 good practices, is his opinion. And I think it's showing. They are lacking a bit of cohesion, and it's kind of what you feared with the offseason they had. They didn't get a ton of high-impact players off the bat. I mean, Miles Rice, Pharrell Payne, and Darius Adams were really the only high-profile guys that really managed to snag. And
Solomon Washington, too.
Solomon Washington's good, and he did not play, which I thank you for saying that, is important here. He's another big that will likely going to start at the 4 spot, and I'm going to have to guess. I meant to say this earlier. Del Pinto started again, and he didn't do anything. Like Bruce was saying in the post-game show, I'm not sure how much he actually left in the show, but I don't know why he's starting it. I really don't. He's not adding anything to this team. And I'm not trying to knock the kid, but maybe they just feel like they need another wing since Sanders was playing the 3. I don't really know, but you'd have to imagine once Solomon Washington comes back and it's healthy, he'll be at the power forward spot and Elijah Saunders can slide down, and hopefully they get a little bit more punch that way in the interior, Mason. But we're going to learn a lot against Georgetown, and I guess we'll just segue to talking about that now. Mason, I don't know if you've been following this, but Georgetown's had a really good start to the year. They had a scrimmage early, and I can't remember who they beat, but they beat Kentucky in their second scrimmage, and then they just beat, I think, GW on Monday. They're off to a good start. Again, it's a scrimmage against Kentucky. It's not a real game, but they've looked good so far, and the Terps are going to be tested early against a very promising Georgetown team.
Yeah, I don't think you can take away much from this. I mean, it felt like Miles Rice, Isaiah Watts, Rice not playing, Watts coming off the bench, David D. Coit coming off the bench. These guys are not guys that are going to be on the bench. I don't think they're going to be on the bench on Friday. They've all battled injuries. It's really going to be hard to take a lot away from even the game Friday night, just because we have a team of guys who are imported and they've been hurt, and probably their best player is injured still. But that's going to be the case here for a little bit, as reports have been saying. I think that you're seeing a team that's trying to develop pieces right now and put it together and figure out who can play. Maybe, players have flashed in practice and it's not translating to the court. And look, their minutes are going to go away as other guys like an Andre Mills kind of surge a little bit and become, a really solid piece off the bench, something that like last year's team could have used. I think it's so hard to take away things from a first game. And I'm not really negative on it. I'm not really positive on it. I think that we're probably not the 29th best team in the country, which is where Jay Billis had Maryland in his poll today.
At least not right now. And like you said, Mason, you are developing a lot of talent. And I do know that as I was ranting about our first game here, I was just analyzing the game we saw. But yes, this team has a lot to figure out. A great example of that is George Turkson, who I actually liked in the scrimmage against UMBC. But the Chesapeake Bay Retrievers, for the gentleman who we do know who commented that, not just the Retrievers, I liked him a lot in the scrimmage. He didn't really add much to this game. And that's one of those guys you got to see how he's a redshirt freshman. He didn't play it all last year. Let's see how he is. Let's see if he holds a rotation spot, after Solomon Washington comes back. And it's also worth mentioning, before I get too down on this team, and I'm not down on them yet. We have a lot of game stuff to play. But Passmore, whose name I remember his name. I can't remember how to pronounce it. The kid from Kansas is another wing that's hurt. He's out for the season. That's another huge spot they're missing. I mean, there's been a lot made. I've already seen about the lack of bigs, which is a fair point. It's going to be challenging in Big Ten play without them. But they also have a lot of wings. There's a lot of guards in that 6'4", kind of 6'3" spot that are probably going to have to be asked to play up to that wing spot because they don't have a ton of depth out there. You're going to be banking on Elijah Saunders, Del Pinto, and probably a little bit Darius Adams to fill that role. But yeah, Mason, we're going to have to see. Early in the year, rotation will be fleshed out. This was going to change a lot probably before the Big Ten play starts. We'll be out there at Georgetown, at Xfinity Center against Georgetown, And Mason, we got a heck of a show lined up for Sunday when we talk about the Georgetown game and the Rutgers football game.
Yeah, I mean, two bad teams that are allegedly our rivals in two different sports. Georgetown beat Morgan State 87-70 on Monday.
Okay, I thought it was
I'm not overly enthused. That's about equal to what we did.
It is.
However, Deshaun Harris-Smith did score 10 points. So that's an accomplishment in itself.
I got no hate for DHS. I wish he played better here.
Me neither. That's why I called it an accomplishment. It's truly an accomplishment for him. There's no guy that I want to succeed more for Maryland than DHS, and I just hope it does work out for him. The guy's got so much talent. You just cannot put the ball in the bottom of the basket.
No, he could not. Mason, let's go around the non-rev report before we swing over to football talk again. And we'll start with field hockey. Women's soccer has officially moved on from the non-rev report till August of next year. Field hockey, Mason, they got a huge week lined up, maybe the biggest week of any team on campus, and maybe football. With the Big Ten tournament, they open that tomorrow, which is Thursday, with a rematch against a 7th seed Ohio State at 2:00 on BTN+. Mason, they need to avenge one. We discussed it when it happened. They lost a heartbreaker that should not have lost to Ohio State on the road earlier this year in overtime. See if they can do it. They got to win some games here.
Yeah, and this one is definitely one they need to put into the win column. If they win, they'll face the winner of Iowa and Indiana at 4 p.m. on Friday on the Big Ten Network. They got to pick up probably 2 wins here to find themselves in the tournament field.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a big weekend for them. Volleyball fell to Northwestern on Sunday, 3-1. It was their 5th straight loss, and they have now lost 11 of their last 12, which also lines up for Big Ten play started. So they're 1-11 in the conference. Mason, they'll face Ohio State on Saturday at 1, and I'm going to say nothing else about this team because I don't have anything good to say.
Yeah, they're really bad. Men's soccer, now, Jordan, they're number 1 in the country. I talked about earlier. They defeated number 14 Washington 1-0 on Friday to take possession of first place in the Big Ten. The squad will get their chance to lock up a Big Ten regular season title on Friday at 8 out in East Lansing against Michigan State. A point seals a share, 3 seals the win. And then the tournament will be played on campus sites with the top 4 seeds. So possibly a matchup at Ludwig before they more than likely host some tournament games there. Jordan, they're number 1 in the country. The game on Friday was probably the poorest officiated college athletic event I've seen in a long time. But hey, they got it done 1-0.
Yeah, they did. Mason and I spent our Halloween watching that one while we were giving out candy. It was a wild affair, to say the least. A lot of twists and turns in that game. Terps scoring, I think, in the 80th minute to take the win, Mason. If anyone watched that game, because we got to talk about this a little bit, in the last 10 seconds, Maryland committed pretty blatant foul that should have at least been a free kick, if not PK, that they didn't call anything on after reviewing it, Mason. And I just still don't understand how they didn't call that. And keep in mind, we are Maryland people talking about how Maryland committed a crippling foul and they didn't get called on it. So it was that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think the referee, frankly, wanted to make the game about himself, and he did a good job of that. As far as the foul, look, it's not a penalty kick. It's outside the box. That's the rule of the game. I have no idea what the rules of college soccer are when the clock obviously operates differently with no stoppage time. I have no idea what the rules are around them putting time back on the clock if it's lapsed and it's not a penalty kick. I don't know if they can even do that. Bottom line, game was officiated terribly. Also, bottom line, GK probably should have scored 3 goals in that game, and he did not manage to put them in the back of the net. Look, this Maryland team, there's so much talent. There's some holes in it, but I think different pieces of it played to their best against Washington on the defensive end. And look, this is a team that I've put it up on our Instagram page. I've said it on here. There's a good chance they have the trophy after Thanksgiving and they're national champs.
Yeah, Mason and I are starting to drop our plans to go to Cary, North Carolina for the Final Four. We'll see if that happens. But with that said, Mason, a new addition to the Non-Rev Report. The wrestling team is back in action and off to a good start down in Roanoke for their first weekend.
Yeah, they're getting some wins there. Branson John posted first in the 197-pound bracket with wins over a pair of ranked opponents from Minnesota and West Virginia. Braxton Brown and Oscar Williams each made the final in their respective weight classes, and the Terps, they're back at it in Bethlehem with the Journeyman Collegiate Classic.
And just a reminder for those who, did not catch last week's episode, big, I guess you say other sport news, a tennis pairing, women's tennis that is in the ITA regionals that will start tomorrow. If they do well, they will advance to the NCAA tournament, which is a really big deal in tennis, which will take place next, I think, in a couple weeks. But keep an eye on that. I'll check you on Terps for the results on that. That would be a nice one for the Terps on the side. In other news, Mason, because we can't not talk about this, it's circulated the community multiple times by now. A big fundraising initiative from the university itself is launched at athletics. It's a huge part to play in this. Talk a little bit about, what do we call it here? Forward, the campaign for the future.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I would love to be the guy that got paid to brand this thing. Forward? Seriously? Like, somebody got paid for that, I bet you, Jordan.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah, some big goals. I mean, $350 million is the goal of this.
Just athletics, not for the whole campaign.
Yeah, I know. And it seems to kind of try and wrap around different pieces of the university and bring it together. It's big. I don't know what. Usually, when you set a goal of like $350 million, you usually have some money committed towards that. I don't know what the case looks like with this. Promising, but not a crazy amount out about it, other than they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm landing on it. Maybe we should bring our Joe LeBou back on to talk about it, because I don't know what the goals are here. Normally, I thought you were going to say this, Mason. Normally, when you have a goal that high, you say we're doing this, this, and this with the money. And I looked at all the marketing stuff. I worked on the website. I couldn't find any actual goals for this campaign. I'm not saying they're not there, but they're not publicized if they are. So I'm very curious what those might be. And I guess maybe we'll try to find some more information about that this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. Jordan, around the Big Ten, let's get to it.
Indeed. An interesting game to start this weekend slate, which no one on this listening to this podcast will watch because it's the same time as Maryland's basketball game. Northwestern at number 19 USC. Mason, USC, they got a shot to make the playoff. They're playing Oregon in a couple weeks. And this Friday night game, they're very excited in LA for this team. I'm expecting a great atmosphere out there, and I'm expecting USC to win big, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not expecting them to win big, Jordan. I think that the Northwestern team has been playing extremely well, probably beyond and above expectations for them. And I think this is the kind of game where they're going to hang around.
Yep. We will find out. I'm excited for that game's result, but we will be watching basketball game and then probably the soccer game right after that. Next up on the agenda, I put a low on this outline for a reason here. Big noon kickoff, number 2 Indiana at Penn State. This game has blowout written all over it. But Mason, fun fact, Indiana has never won at Happy Valley.
Yeah, and I think that will hopefully change on Saturday. Kurt Signetti is going to bring his squad in there, and this Penn State team, they're going to struggle on offense similar to the way Maryland did. And, you know, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are so talented, but the rest of this offense is just miserable, and the defense has not been up to par. And it's looking like no bowl for the Nittany Lions.
In a season full of high-profile disappointments, Mason, I almost feel bad for Penn State at this point. It's a season from absolute hell for them, much like our Commanders. So we feel some pain on that one.
Yeah, I don't feel any pain for them. I just want that to be published here on the record, I feel zero remorse for what's going on there.
And Mason is a true Penn State hater, like few I've met. He took that from his father. Um, Ohio State at Purdue. I mean, Purdue's won this game before, but I don't think it's happening this time.
Absolutely not. I would be surprised if they score.
We're just going to breeze past the one because, look, I'm very interested in this game. Number 9, Oregon at number 20, Iowa, the big CBS feature of the week, Mason. And a lot of people have highlighted this as an upset. It's a 6-point spread. I'm still picking Oregon, but I see what they're saying.
Yeah, Kinnick will be like none other in this game. And I think Iowa's winning this football game, and the Hawks are going to start to look like they're a team that's going to make the playoffs. I've said it here on the pod before. They were one play away from beating Indiana earlier in the season. This team is legitimately talented. They're good. They're well coached. They do a lot of things the right way. They can run the ball. The passing game is better than it's been in the past, but it's still not good by the extent of college football.
I mean,
but
it's still
the defense, the run game, the tackling, they're just excellent in so many ways, and I think that they're going to be able to pull this game out. I'm not so bought into the Ducks.
I will say, and this is a controversial take, you could make an argument these are two of the better coaches in this conference, if not two of the best coaches in this conference.
No doubt.
Mason, number 23, Washington. They finally get the respect I feel like they deserve. This is a good team. Number 23, Washington at Wisconsin in a game, I think Washington's favored at 20 points.
Yeah, and that's probably not enough. I don't know how you could say that this Wisconsin team is going to compete in this game. They just don't have an offense, and the defense is not what it once was up in Madison. And I just think Washington wins, and they win big.
Finally, Nebraska at UCLA to close out the slate, Mason. A game that I'm sure will paint UCLA's Rose Bowl bright red as the rose. I'm picking UCLA in this one, actually. Without Dylan Raiola, I think Nebraska's offense is going to be flat.
Yeah, it's I've never been a Dylan Raiola lover, but certainly don't like the backup options for the Cornhuskers. Yeah, I got UCLA, but this basically will be a Nebraska home game.
Unfortunately, because UCLA fans were very nice when we were out there. Mason, just a couple other games I want to discuss. There's no NBC feature game because they were using that slot on 701 Navy at Notre Dame. It's a game a lot of people are excited for, Mason. I don't think it's going to be close, but I'm hoping Navy can pull one out here.
Yeah, it's going to be similar to like the Notre Dame Army game last year at Yankee Stadium. It's just Navy and Army are good, but they're just not that good. And they're just not going to be able to score. Notre Dame's going to stop the run. The offense, CJ Carr and Jeremiah Love are going to be able to move the ball. And I just don't think Navy's going to be able to keep up. I do definitely hope they will. But I just think that Notre Dame's going to get up early. The defense is going to take over. This is one of those games that Marcus Freeman's teams just they take in the details. They stop the run. They're really, really good on defense. The offense has been, it's been up and down during his tenure, but they're always prepared for these games late in the season, not so much early in the year. But by the time this time comes around, they look like a playoff team, and they consistently play like it, and they play the schedule of it. So I can't see Navy really competing late into this game.
Hopefully we're wrong. Shout out to the big game of the week, BYU Texas Tech, which will be a fun one to watch. But we will be in Piscataway watching our Terps, Mason. But before we talk about that one, we'll hit the highlights of Terps in the NFL. Not much to talk about here, but you got to shout out Ty Johnson, who finally broke free to score a touchdown. But he only had
he finally got on the field, Jordan. I mean, I feel like he's just hasn't been out there enough. I know that James Cook's having a great year, but Ty Johnson he finds his way into the end zone until he stays in the league. Chad Ryland hits 2 field goals last night on Monday night. Hits 3 extra points. Cardinals beat the Cowboys. Jordan DJ Moore, 4 catches, 72 yards, a rush for 17, and he threw a touchdown pass in Chicago's win over Cincinnati. And then finally, Sammy O puts the other 4 tackles, and the 49ers, Jordan, keep finding ways to win.
They do, Mason. That Bears-Bengals game was maybe the most unhinged football game I've seen in I don't even know how long.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are starting to equal Maryland football, just like the Cardinals, and finding ways to lose.
Well, on that note, Mason, look, as our man Bruce Potter said in the post-game show in Baltimore, Judgment Day has arrived for the Mike Loxley era, and it comes in the form of a game Piscataway in what I have to call rivalry at this point, even though it disgusts me. Rutgers is favored, and even in that, I'm unhappy.
Yeah, I think we all have a lot to be unhappy about now. But this is it. And there's no game more fitting than back-to-back weeks against Indiana. I don't care the number 2 Indiana, but Indiana and Rutgers. The two teams in the days of the Big Ten East, you said you have to beat if you want to win 6 games. Well, we lost last week. Here we are, Piscataway, just like it's been in years past. We got to win. Sometimes we got to win to make a bowl. Apparently, sometimes we got to win to, I guess, save the coach's job. But bottom line is, this is the game you got to win. Callie McManus as a quarterback, I like him. I think that he gets the ball down the field. However, this Rutgers team has had a season, I would say, more disappointing than ours. They are bad in all 3 phases at times. I mean, if you watch their game from last week, the 35-13 just beat down that Illinois put on there. And Illinois has not been any team to necessarily write home about this year. They've missed expectations significantly. Illinois moved the ball through the air and on the ground. They were able to get to the quarterback. And there's 2 guys, Jordan, that I don't think you could focus on anymore in this game for the Terps, and that is Zahir Mathis and Sidney Stewart.
Yeah, Mason. Look, we like Sidney Stewart. He's a guest of the show, but he and Zahir Mathis just really haven't made much of an impact since the Washington game, I guess.
I mean, what are you talking about, Jordan? Sidney Stewart got the strip sack in Pasadena, playing solo without his running mate. I mean, these guys, they make plays. I mean,
well, that is fair, but the down-to-down pressure impact plays has not felt like it's been there.
I thought it was there in Pasadena.
Maybe, and we can debate that all day. But regardless, they are the keys to the game. Can you affect the plays, get pressure? And you should be able to. You really should be able to dominate the line of scrimmage in this game. The defensive front, Ian Thomas, Cam Rice, Stewart, Mathis, Nazir Taylor, the rest of the guys up there have been probably the best unit on this team this season, despite what I just said. Even in the games they're not playing great, they're still at least there, which I cannot say about every unit on this team. And the other X factor, Mason, back, on our own side, is what version of Malik Washington are we going to see?
Yeah, I think it's across the board, just like what version of confidence level are we going to see on this offense? There have been times this season where they're playing with confidence, and you're seeing a team that, had that 20-0 lead against Washington, the team that, went up to Wisconsin. While that win looks less and less impressive, at the time, it didn't look like everybody in the country is going to steamroll them. It's just what version of us is going to show up.
On the other side of that, you also got to ask what version of Rutgers is going to show up. Because the Rutgers team has had some pretty good performances. At Minnesota, they played well. Minnesota's a pretty solid team. I think they've proven that so far this season, outside that Iowa game. They beat Purdue, which isn't super impressive. But there's been a lot of games where they just, and they hung in with Iowa. Can't forget about that, was how well Iowa's played this year. And then there's been the games with Washington, Oregon, that's whatever. And then Illinois, who, as you said, isn't that good this year, definitely underperforming, where they've just looked flat. This team has had performances that are noteworthy, though. The running back, Antoine Raymond's almost 800 yards already this season, which, considering Maryland just gave up 300 yards on the ground to Indiana, which I know they're very good. I've said it before, I think they're the best team in the country. But still, you got gashed. Can you stop the run consistently? To your point, Mason, how confident are we going to be that that's not going to happen again? Do you still have the fight in you as a team to preserve this season and preserve this coaching staff? The guys do seem to like Locks a lot. Regardless of what anybody else thinks about him, regardless of what we think about him, these guys have played hard every week. Even last week, you say, they quit, because people love saying teams quit. I don't know what the deal is with that. But I'm not going to go on that rant. It's knocking the door, Mason. But, the team got steamrolled. But they also had everything possible go wrong to start the second half. This team has shown fight in every game this season. Even that Indiana game, they were in it until they just dropped the ball, literally. Can you still can you bring that back out? Because they haven't really gotten punched like they did last week until now. Now it's Judgment Day, like we said. Now you got to show, okay, you got steamrolled. You lost by 45 points at home on homecoming. You go out there in Piscataway and show that you are still the same team that almost won all those other games. Get the 5th win finally. It's been 5 weeks since we won a game here. And let's, get to a bowl game so we can go to whatever crappy bowl we were talking about last week, Mason, and be happy.
It's actually been 7 weeks.
Really?
Since we won a game.
Oh, yeah, because we had 2 bye weeks in there. You're right.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And look, this one is the game that defines you. It's the game that defines the season. I'm not really, like I said, right, interested in the bigger picture at the moment. I'm interested in what we can do on Saturday. And if we can overcome the second half of last week and just play better football, win a game. We clearly have more talent, but this one's going to come down to this. Can we do the right things? Did we let last week beat us? And are we really the same old defeated team? Or can you come out and win? Win in your approach, win in your execution, win in the trenches, make the tackles that are there to be made, continue to do the right things, and come out with the W. Because in every one of those losses, you can see the moments where we failed ourselves in just execution, where we didn't make the right play, where the guy was there to make the tackle, he didn't do it. He had the quarterback and he couldn't bring him down. What version of this team shows up on Saturday? If you look at history, it's going to be the worst performance we've seen yet, just based on the facts. Are these guys different? Or is the same Maryland still there on the field and in the locker room and in the preparation? Have we again let ourselves down in every way leading up to the performance? Or have we made any changes with the new coordinators, any changes with the new guys in the room, any changes with Mike Locksley and his talk about his attitude, his resolve, his willingness to get this right? The results will be on the field at 6 o'clock on Saturday. You'll know where we are. You'll really, truly know who we are by that time. That being said, I think this Rutgers team is equally in the same exact spot. It may be a game of 2 horrible teams and one of them is going to have to win, or it's going to be who can overcome. And when you ask me that in that way, honestly, Jordan, I probably would say Rutgers is going to win. But there's something about a handful of guys on this Maryland team that have continued to work through this, continue to become better, that makes me think that the young guys are going to carry it through. If Zahir Mathis can play, if Sidney Stewart shows up and plays his best, if Daniel Wingate actually, plays like the guy we saw earlier this season, and this defense continues to just wreak havoc, which, again, we did not play well on defense on Saturday, but what they do, they started the game off with a turnover. They got another turnover, got the ball back inside the 20-yard line for this offense again. There are going to be those opportunities. It's just if we're man enough to take them. If we can really own the moment, own who we are, and continue to move this program forward, which is all these guys talk about, all their social media, all the press conferences, all that stuff, it's time to go out there and prove it. Because if you don't, well, we're finished. Simple as that.
Good to see Coach Mason still out there. As Mason used to say when we were doing stupid stuff, the time is now, and now is the time. It's now or never. That's all I can really say. This Rutgers team is beatable. They have some good pieces, for sure. But they are beatable. And look, if you want to compete in this conference, and no shade on Rutgers here, they're a team you got to beat. You play them every year. It's funny because this time of year for me, my brain does switch to basketball season, Mason. But at least for, at the minimum, one more week, you got a chance to prove me wrong, prove everybody else wrong, and this is still football season. But if we don't win tomorrow, Saturday, excuse me, it's getting late early, as the term goes. Got anything else to wrap it up?
Or it's getting late. I don't know what you even call this. These are the games we just haven't won. It's time to change the narrative in some way. And yeah, those of you that, are already negative on this, okay, well, you beat a 4-5 Rutgers team that's, just another Big Ten team without a winning record. And frankly, what I'd say is that we got to beat the opponent in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't September. All your narratives, September this, whatever goes with that, it's all true. We just don't win games this time of year. I'll be happy to win one, especially on the road.
I'd be thrilled to win one. I need to win one just to feel like we've won something, because as you said, it's almost been 2 months since that Wisconsin game. And my gosh, did it all feel different then. Mason, I don't really have much else to add. And it's simple. You win or you don't. That's what we got.
Well, let's get down to it. I got the Terps, Jordan, 31-27.
Oh, you were so close to what I was going to say. I'm going to give it the Terps 34-24. I just have a hard time, and if there's a Rutgers person out there that's going to yell at me later, fine. But I have a hard time buying into Rutgers. They just haven't shown it to me this year. We have not shown it to me either, but we've been in a lot more of these games than Rutgers has. The talent's there. The opportunity is there. I am excited for Xfinity Center on Friday night, Mason. That much I will say. As you told me earlier, the student section has taken that spot behind the opposing bench again, which I think might be a recipe for disaster, but it should be fun to watch at the very least. Got a heck of a weekend lined up for all our Terps. Shout out men's soccer again, who has a chance to clinch the conference on Friday night.
Yeah, Jordan, here's what I have to say about the students behind the bench and what you just said. We have to own who we are. This brand has been too deteriorated by outsiders. Now there's some real Terps in the building. We got to own who we are. We're an obnoxious, loud, hard place to play. We've walked away from that because we're afraid of being fined, or we're afraid of this, or we're afraid of that. We need to authentically be us.
You know what? I can get behind that. Hey, there's no place I would rather be, as Mason well knows, than Xfinity Center for a big game. Excited for Friday. I'm apprehensive for Saturday. And we're going to have a very long podcast on Sunday.
Yes, we are. Make sure to like the show where you watch it, subscribe to it where you can. And as always, go Terps.
Go Terps.